Berman, Alan Yang, Emily V. Gordon, and Kumail Nanjiani. Let's hear it. Hi.
Hello.
I like what you were trying to do there, Emily. Good job. You're bouncing around. Yeah. So let's go back to the beginning. How did this start? Where did who?
Hello.
Hello.
This was. I always
Really?
start with money and kind of work backwards. No, I was trying to. And who was pointed at? And then the next calls were to everyone in the front row. And I was saying earlier today, it's when you start to put it.
For the stories that you wanted to tell, because one of the things that I loved about the 8 episodes are come up with those.
I think we just wanted a variety of tones and experiences. We kind of wanted to make sure.
Said a character,
That's
no
right.
character would say in the show, which was tones, and convey that there is no one immigrant experience, because as you said in your
Times, for better or worse, that image.
stories that we hadn't seen before in the context of
In a sports story before, but you haven't seen like a young, like one Mexican woman as the hero of a sports story. So that's worth telling. Yeah.
Yeah. Alan, the writers of the Master of None episode that he was referring to, right?
Yeah, that episode is
Writer's room for a show like this work, where each episode is a completely different story, and you're working from somebody's real story.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what we did in the first season is as much as, and so you're kind of looking at these moments from someone's life and trying to pull
An
that.
episode that you were just referring to, I feel like it's the closest the show comes to a character saying "back in my country," but you subvert it in a way by having his wife say it, and by
there was a point in that where he's a hustler. He's he wanted more opportunities, so he came to America. It's not that his life was bad in Iran. So yeah, we try and
With that episode, I'm also thinking about the Syrian episode where the main character has.
gonna be viral now. So you've really
Did I do it?
yeah
You get it.
you've messed it up.
No,
Please
but I think
crop me out of the GIF.
the rest of the answers are going to go like this.
expand on that a little bit.
That the father isn't evil. The father he misses his son too. Yeah. The best bad guys are when there are no.
Curious about that show because, or that episode, excuse me, because often I think people would relish in the negative that within that episode you guys know how to not do that. How
Well,
to
I mean,
touch on it here and there.
We should credit the writers of that episode. Agrees that all had experiences similar to that, so they'd understood that. As Emily's saying, it's not black or white. It's not really relishing in the negative. There is
experience, the subject of the story, and
Story to beat out, to tell that maybe give you the most.
I don't know which one's hard, but an interesting one I think is the first one, which is about the. So that one was an interesting episode because.
To the top of the mountain.
What a bonkers thing, right?
Yeah, and it's like, nah.
And that's as Josh was saying. I mean, that's all based in.
to it, right? There's a kid running a motel, so at first we thought, oh, this is kind of a
Home Alone.
It's like
Home Alone, as we discussed that episode.
If you watch that episode, it doesn't quite feel like maybe Home Alone 2, but not
Lost
like
in New
the
York?
original.
No.
The part where Donald Trump comes in, it feels like that.
Matt, I was waiting for
And to swing down. Yeah.
But then it lands in this really melancholy place at the end, which in mind as we've developed it over the years. But his parents went away.
expect from that because we would expect the parents come home and it's just a celebration and everything would be melancholy and sad before that without them there, but it's actually a somewhat lighthearted.
one thing that we kept, finding out with these stories is when you have that's interesting because if you were to write that in the movie, it would do something.
Would have otherwise like well cut that scene if it's not doing anything.
Yeah,
We gotta cut that
exactly.
scene.
There's an episode called The Cowboy about this. Him.
I love that episode. I mean, I like all of them, but I love that.
And it's
actor.
interesting. It's this guy from so different now, and nobody notices. And again, that's
Absorbed. It's hard for anyone to ever notice anyone else.
There's a great reaction shot in that episode when he walks in as the cowboy.
But in my
And I was
core,
just
when
like,
that
wow, what a
happened.
great performance.
That's exactly
by
what would
someone
happen.
With no lines.
Did 30 takes of that.
Tom McCarthy in that episode. Can you talk? Becomes an ally in a way. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, I actually didn't realize it was.
About finding the truth within these stories and sort of avoiding the cliche. And you had said something about
In the writer's room, you're exploring.
performance as Laura Bush is very good, and she has actually a lot of
2003 or 2004 when it took place, right?
Yeah.
Which is like a fairly powerless role within the
that
government.
Is absolutely right. Yeah, she was there for a spelling bee thing. Yeah, she was actually.
We cut down that scene a little bit, but as I recall in the writing of it, it was like
That I feel like growing up watching TV, growing up watching movies, we are taught in bad movies. And so when you start working on things, you're like, oh, it's got to happen like this because that's how movies go.
It is interesting, as Josh was saying, you always have the truth to go back to, and as Alan was
not just movies, but specifically the half-hour form, which is what we're working in. You really haven't seen that.
Hug and learn.
do not
Hug and learn.
diss on Family Ties.
You know that's my vendetta. No, I mean, I'm a Mr. Belvedere man.
Every interview, you just go out.
Who shows?
It's also like I also didn't watch Family Ties. It's like a little bit before my time. So like,
One of the episodes is written and directed. Tell the story.
yeah, Josh, you want to handle that because you met with him, right? Or someone at you're at
yeah,
Epic, Arthur maybe,
yeah,
right?
we were
Boston. So she went to the Vacation Expo, and all the people that
was
worked the
nobody
Vacation
there.
Expo were there, but there was actually no crowds.
Yeah.
So she ended up actually in real life, I think she
trip was an Alaskan cruise, so like they're escaping the blizzard to go to Alaska. But then they his mom and got all this insight. Again, it was sort of therapeutic for them.
He wrote the story from the perspective of his mom, not
He's
from the
in it.
perspective
Yeah.
of himself.
Yeah. But he's a character.
and he
character.
had-
He's a
Yeah.
character, but he's not.
It's a form of family therapy, by the way.
Right.
Write a
too.
story.
Right.
For, yeah,
You haven't
yeah.
now made
right
a
here.
movie
Me
and a
too.
TV show about
Right.
it. Yeah.
Write your youth from
It
the
keeps
perspective of your
happening.
parents.
But
You
yeah,
were-
and so working with Z was great on it because, you know, he wrote and directed it, but I think it, as you guys remember,
So it's such a great example of telling the story of the immigrant of
You were asking earlier what was the hardest episode. I think in some ways that one was the glacier.
a really beautiful description of the episode.
That's the
Size is
haiku version.
really hard to kind of come up with the truth, and there aren't big twists. and
It's
turns.
internal. It's very internal, too.
internal.
very
Yeah.
internal. So you're right. That's such a challenge as a screenwriter, right? Is you're used to writing stuff that plays eye is, you know, that's an amazing shot. Her singing karaoke.
Tom McCarthy is in it, but he's probably in. Maybe I'm neglecting.
Zachary Quinto.
Nelly Laurent.
And
yeah.
Zach Quinto.
Quinto.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who I saw walking on the way here.
You saw Zachary Quinto walking?
Yeah, I kind of tried to make eyes with him, and then he.
You tried to make eyes with him?
We know we've met.
Very handsome.
I kept looking. I kept searching for his eyes, and then I think that
You
was.
followed him, and we're like,
Zachary, Mr.
We,
Spock.
we met once.
We
yeah.
met once.
but with the exception of that episode,
I mean,
throughout
we
it.
wanted to have, as Emily was saying, actors who were
Can
authentic.
carry a full episode of television on their backs easily.
Yeah, and what a wonderful byproduct of the fact that by casting it authentically, there he is a star, and Journalist, who stars in the Jaguar episode, is a star, and Angela's a star, and so these people have never been number one on the call sheet. They've
A
never.
lot.
Yeah.
They do a lot in every episode.
It's
Like,
it's
they're
insane.
really-
Being the lead is hard. Kumail, you know that.
Come out.
Yeah.
What's it like
Well,
to be the
okay.
lead?
Could you turn their mics off?
But I think even with all those people, I mean, when we were killing guys.
It's like yelling in the background with a group of other terrorists. As they like run towards something.
Well, I know that for brown guys, it's always like, if you now I could play the fucking terrorist. Can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear.
The body for?
Yeah, to really just play terrorist number.
Type in my community. God, I don't care about these advancements. I've always wanted to play a terrorist. Who has a question? Right here.
Hi. I was just wondering when you had to.
There were a few reasons. I mean, I think sometimes.
Anyone's life could be a horror movie.
The other thing we cut out of the Beatrice's episode.
Budget for the squirrels.
It was
They're expensive.
millions of dollars of CGI for those squirrels. So would have bankrupted Apple.
We had the
entire
chipmunks.
company.
We had the
I trained those squirrels for
Squirrel
months.
rank.
thing like that, the squirrel thing, which was in draft after draft, truly told over and over again. No, but it was one of those things where you're totally off, and it also just felt like, well, can we tell the story without squirrels? These are the things you talk about late at night.
And Josh goes home and cries.
And then Josh writes squirrel fiction.
Did you have to stick to the 30-minute format? Was that part of it? I mean, because it is streaming, you can.
Yeah, we I
Wanted
mean,
to.
there's some are a little.
34, 30,
yeah, but we wanted. I think ultimately it was very beneficial to the show.
Right. It's an absolute rarity that I say. I wish that was 30 minutes longer. Not. I wish.
We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
People are like, "I wish it was longer." Like that's what you want. You
Even
want.
wanting more.
Yeah, people want more episodes. They want longer stories. Like, yeah, it's just a snapshot of these people's lives.
Experienced watching 2 in a row or 3 in a row.
It's bigger than the sum of its parts. You know, I think, and no one episode.
That's
true.
Yeah, I think it's a minor miracle that it ended because you know it really is because they are.
You know, when you write these stories, you know, we've talked to a lot of people that have.
more. Right here.
Oh man.
Hey guys. So, Alan, I've been a big fan of your.
Very insightful question, and I've got to say you reacted more to that Emmy win than my parents did because I think they probably just stood there and said, "Oh, great." So appreciate the love.
Oh, some Asian guy won.
Yeah. It's actually a really good question, and actually we were talking about this earlier today on Netflix.
Oh,
Sorry,
come
Apple.
on.
But it really
Have I-
it took over 20 years before I went back to Taiwan.
I can't believe you started learning to speak Mandarin for your movie.
And so, and I got,
love this.
I can't believe you didn't force the actors to learn English.
But it was really funny because on set I had a translator. No, you can't do that. We're wasting takes.
He wanted to be a director too.
Yeah, exactly. We're shooting on film. We can't waste it.
I want to
But
make a movie about the making of Tiger Tail now.
Well, it's seriously a track about that movie, but it is about immigrants, and it's part of the reason why we're so passionate about this show is
Work really hard so that you can get a platform so that then you can usher.
it's still crazy.
I think that's what's great about working hard, even if it's not.
This week. It's up
It's
now.
been
on.
up for a week and a half, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on.
not for a little.
It's out.
It's out.
I watched
You.
For those of you who don't have screeners.
Yeah,
It's
watch
around,
it.
and if you have bought an Apple product in the last year, you get Apple TV Plus get it for free for a year. So yeah, so
Yeah. Well, it's like a free trial too. You can sign up for a week.
Yeah,
You can
sign
watch
up for a
them all.
week,
It's
watch it in
half-hour
one night.
episodes. You can watch them all.
You guys to riff for 10.
Of Apple.
Thank you so much.